Alrighty, yo, what is up, Knights? Aegis Rick here, doing some kind of reaction video, or I guess kind of recap or speculation video on the newly released Third Awakening Knight classes. Now, I haven't done this for any of the other classes because, quite frankly, guys, I haven't been nearly as excited for the other characters as it turns out. I am very excited for the Knights to get their 3As, even though I probably won't see them for a half year or so until I see them in DFOG. But that, I suppose, gives me something to look forward to uh, in the coming months here when we finally get our 3As for Knights. But guys, let's go ahead and talk about the various things that we got with the Third Awakening showcases so far in KDNF. All four of the Knights have been released, and these are the Third Awakening artwork. I gotta say, let's play a little bit of a game. Put in the comments below. I'll give you a few seconds to put in the comments below a ranking from 1 to 4. 1 being the best, 4 being the worst. Rank these 4 Awakening artworks, okay? The criteria is just how good does it look, okay? How good does it look? Do you like it? 1 to 4. Go ahead, put it in the comments below. I'm going to tell you guys mine. I'm going to first and foremost tell you number 1. Hands down, has got to be the Paladin. Holy cow, that Paladin is bad ass, dude. Everything about it, the cool armor, the big ass shield, the cool stance, the active stance, and the badass face. Everything is perfect about this. Dude, that's just exactly what I'm thinking of when I think of Knight. It is a little bit revealing, more revealing than I care for, but that's, part of the course in this game. You gotta have that sex appeal, and it looks really good either way. As long as you have mostly armor, even if you're showing a little bit of skin, as long as you mostly have armor and you have a cool stance and all those other things I said, you got my number 1. And honestly, this is the best it has ever looked. Now, what I also want to do is kind of showcase how it kind of evolved from the two-way. The Neo Awakening should be a progression of that, and when you look at the Savior in her second awakening form and then look at the third awakening, it is very clearly and obviously an upgrade on all fronts. She has different armor on the top. She has more wings. It's like she's more of an angel. She has an even bigger shield. I mean, overall, she just looks like an upgrade to the Savior. I mean, honestly, number 1 in my book is definitely Savior, hands down. Now, my second favorite out of all the bunch, I think, is gonna be the Dragon Knight. Now, this might be unpopular, unpopular opinion because, quite frankly, this is not how the Dragon Knight looks. In fact, if we kind of bring up the 2A artwork of the Dragon Knight, this is not really anything like the Dragon Knight. You would think Dragon Knight's a classy lady, man. Dragon Knight's more of an officer type character. She looks like, she's not going to be out here hoeing like this one is. A lot of people are giving this character 2 very big, and I mean very big, thumbs down on this one because it's not really a progression of the second awakening. It really is like a separate kind of version of this character, one that's more, I don't know, open about their business. What can I say, dude? But aside from that, if you ignore that and pretend that she had a whole bunch of armor, I think her pose, as well as the armor that she has and that cool weapon that she has, which I think is kind of an awesome spear type weapon. Spears and dragons and stuff, they always go together. So it makes sense that she's holding a spear, even if her act doesn't use it. And in fact, the Awakening active doesn't even use it. So I'm like, where did this weapon come from? It looks cool. Her stance is cool. She looks kind of cool and badass, but damn, if only they kept her clothes on, dude. Like, seriously, the 2A artwork did not have any revealing stuff. So of all the Knights, she was the one to be the most classy of the bunch. And lo and behold, that's not the case. If you're a Knight, you a hoe, I guess. My third favorite, guys, is going to be the Chaos. Yes, and that means Elven Knight is my last place. But the Chaos, guys, I think the Chaos just is a great continuation of the 2A artwork. I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. For those of you guys who love the armpit right there, now you get double the action. You armpit boys out there, you're like, yo, now we got 2. And now she's even in more revealing clothes on the lower half. And hell, even if you look at the bra portion right there, it's like unclipping itself. She's even got this belt. Like, is she holding on to another belt or strap? What's up with all these belts and straps, dude? I don't answer that. I'm just, this character is all about that, and she kind of has always been about that. Have you guys seen the Chaos Petite Pet? Yeah, she's always been about that. This character is all about that revealing sexual nature. So this is not surprising when she's barely wearing any clothes. I guess that's how it goes. And it is a continuation from the 2A artwork, and I think it looks really good. It looks like a big upgrade to what they had. And last but not least, guys, the Elven Knight. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of it. You know, and it's not because it's bad artwork. I think the main thing that kind of is a little much for me is just too much reliance on the frills, man. All the frills and the bells and the whistles. Look at all of this stuff. Man, you got all these flowers, all these, like, it looks really good. She looks like an elven queen type of thing, you know. It makes sense. It makes sense aesthetically. But, you know, when I think of knights, I think of things like the paladin, man. And, you know, as they keep progressing through, we look at the 2A artwork. It is a progression of the 2A artwork. It's way more flashy. The shield, the weapon that she's holding, and all the dress and the frills and all that. She looks like an elven queen. I get it. I just don't like it very much. I also don't really like her expression on her face. I mean, look at that. She looks like she's, like, kind of derpy or something, man. I wish they would have given her at least a more serious looking face, like, you know, paladin or something. She looks kind of like spacing out right now. Like, dude, are you on one right now? Got a lot of herbs around you. Are you one of these more potent than the others? Anyway, that's my ranking. I think the one that really dropped the ball and what a lot of people are not gonna like is the Dragonite. What do they do to my girl, yo? But yeah, that's my order, guys. Paladin, Dragonite, Chaos, and then the Elven Knight, in terms of just what I kind of like in the artwork. But of course, the artwork doesn't really mean all that much, guys. All of these characters also got 3 new skills, 2 skills being active skills, including the 3A itself, as well as 1 passive, and we already know what they all do. So I'm going to go ahead and go into order of my least favorite to my most favorite increases, actual 3A updates, which kind of covers their skill. Now I want to give a shout out to Arc Assassin in the Mist, who on the DFOG Discord has kind of done a summary of what all of those changes are going to be. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Morakune DC, who has made an awesome recap video. I'm going to be linking in the description below. And I really do implore you guys to go check out his video, because he is a KDNF player and he's able to showcase some of the skills before we get them in DFOG. So you guys can go check out. He has done all of the knights, and you can see firsthand, you know, what the changes are from before and after, which I think is really awesome. Again, link in the description below. And first and foremost, guys, my least favorite character, one of my least favorite characters, Chaos, okay? Chaos got her charisma removed with the 95 passive. Charisma is the buff that kind of buffs up your minions. They can buff up your minions' damage, both the melee as well as the magic units' damage by 15%. And it also buffs up your army type skills, such as the Fancy Twist and the Genocide Crush, of course. It buffs up those skills as well. It's a really long active buff, which lasts for like 200 seconds, but now it's just kind of be a passive, and you don't have to worry about that skill anymore. So it's just going to be included all the time, and you don't have to worry about casting it, which is kind of a whatever skill anyway. Sacrificial Bomb, this is probably one of the more big changes with the character, is when you use it, it's not going to stun your minion. So that's kind of the drawback, is that usually when you use Sacrificial Bomb, it's going to stun one of your minions for a few seconds, and that most likely is going to be the Big Daddy, which is your big damage anyway. So you were missing out on damage while you use Sacrificial Bomb. Now they're going to basically explode right away and not cause a minion to go completely defective for a couple seconds, which is really good. One of my favorite changes, though, is going to be with a Fancy Twist. They add a finisher attack that pushes enemies right in front of the Chaos, which is awesome. And you can also press the Z skill to kind of get that finishing attack immediately, which is kind of good. If you guys have seen my Chaos PvE crash video, you guys have seen that the Fancy Twist is something you use all the time for grouping capacity. But one thing that kind of happens is that they kind of get grouped right on top of you. Well, now they kind of get grouped right in front of you, which allows you to hit with other skills that normally wouldn't be able to hit when they're right directly on top of you. So now that it's right in front of you, it's a much better position, and you also get that grouping effect much faster with the finishing attack. It's a really good passive change, although it might not be solving some of the bigger problems that the Chaos mains are probably mad about. Fancy Twist is something you can work around, but that is a really nice change, as well as the Sacrificial Bomb change. Across the board, she also got like about a 10 to 15% damage increase, which is kind of nice. Smash Brawl, which is the super hold grab, which kind of has a brawl effect and everybody gets caught up in this grab. It is sped up with attack speed, so you can get the damage off faster, but I wonder if that also affects the holding duration, which most likely you're going to use that skill for damage. You are a damage character after all, but I do wonder how that kind of works with the attack speed increase, because it does make it faster and get your damage off faster. So no idea. Alrighty guys, in the level 95 skill, you guys can see it's very similar to all of the level 95 skills. Basically big AoE and big burst and very, very fast. Now the one thing is the AoE is a little bit short and it is around your character, although remember the Chaos also has some extremely good grouping skills, like with Fancy Twist, as we already mentioned, so it's probably not going to be an issue that you have a little bit less AoE, but pretty generic overall. And lastly guys, the level 100 skill kind of decapitates your minions and then does a big sword attack. It is kind of like, I guess that worked. You're just evil, man. But it does have backloaded damage. So that first slash right there that decapitates everybody actually doesn't do any damage. It's mostly backloaded on that finishing attack, which is really good. Backloaded 3A damage is kind of desired nowadays because of the burst meta. But, you know, Chaos, I think, got some changes, but I don't think enough to kind of address a lot of the Chaos problems. It feels like she just feels like a little bit stronger in a lot of aspects. A few changes here and there to, you know, Sacrificial Bomb, that's kind of a big one, and Fancy Twist is kind of like it is a really good one, and I like it very much, but it probably doesn't affect actual Chaos mains all that much. But, you know, and Charisma being a passive now instead of an active skill, the active skill was basically permanent cast anyway, so it doesn't really help very much. I think overall she got kind of not very much happening to her with the 3A. The next character, which also didn't see very many changes, you'll notice this, that the fixed damage characters seem like they keep getting the short end of the stick. I've heard people mention that. It's like, man, when female Spitfire got her changes, man, they always got the short end of the stick. All these fixed damage characters for 3A always get the shaft, I guess. But Dragonite, guys, she also didn't see very many changes, although she got some really cool ones. For instance, when you get knocked down or juggled, you can use your Dragon Wing skill to immediately pop into the air. It has a 7-second cooldown. It is super good. This is super awesome, a super awesome effect. Because you're going to get knocked down. This is something that they added for the 3A for like Ghost Boy, for instance. They added the ability to teleport while you're getting knocked away. Basically a recovery. You get a recovery for free, and on top of that you get an aerial version of the skill right away, like instantly. So not only are you getting out of an attack, you can also punish or I guess counter combo right away, which is really awesome. You know, I think that's a really good change. In 7 seconds, you know, you don't get knocked down every 7 seconds, you know, or you shouldn't be getting knocked down multiple times in 7 seconds. It's always going to be available when you need it, and it could also prevent, you know, further damage for that attack. So I think that is a huge change. Another change that you get is Knuckle Duster. On the ground when you cast it gets more Y-axis range, and enemies will get dragged to the center of the Y-axis. Now, Knuckle Duster already was used as a polling effect skill. I guess this is just going to make it a little bit more potent with that Y-axis increase. And then when you cast the aerial version, the Knuckle and the Shockwave damage change to just an AoE attack, which is kind of a whatever change anyway. Most likely you're going to be hitting most everybody with it anyway, but it does seem like a bigger shockwave and something that might be a primary damage skill. I don't really use it for primary damage nowadays, but Knuckle Duster might be turned into one of those skills that's going to be primary damage. Got to level it to max. She also got about 12% damage increase across the board. DWP, which is the Dragon Warrior Princess, also reduced cooldown to 20 seconds instead of 25, which I think is a big change. 5 seconds is a big deal for a skill that only had a 25-second cooldown. So 20 seconds, I really like that change. Not really many other changes. You guys can see this is her level 95 skill. It kind of jumps into the air and then shoots a shockwave, and you also have a version that you can utilize with the dragon while you're in dragon riding. That kind of makes 3 dragon skills that you can use while you're riding the dragon, which is really good, and it's a really good finisher. If we look at the 3A active, I think it looks really cool. The animation is really cool. She shoots her dragon into the air, then she jumps kind of into the beam, and then kind of gets her sword charged up, comes back crashing down onto the ground. I think that's kind of awesome. But at the end of the day, guys, overall the changes I don't think really change the character all that much. The one greatest thing that she gets is the ability to get an aerial recovery when she gets knocked down, and immediately get her into the air with the Dragon Wing skill. That is awesome. But aside from that, not much else has changed with the character, so not that excited. Next character, obviously one of my main characters, guys, the Savior. She got a pretty sizable damage increase across the board, 13%. I think one of her biggest things that you're going to notice, though, is that her basic attack has been adjusted. You guys will notice that her X string is just going to be a 3-hit X string, and on the third attack, you kind of do the Wrath skill. It's kind of like a smaller version of the Wrath skill, and it does copy 10% of Wrath's damage. So it doesn't copy Wrath entirely. You don't get a free cast of Wrath, but you get about 10% of the damage on top of just, you know, having a very quick 3x string attack. This kind of basic attack thing is going to help you out a lot when you're dealing with cooldown problems. And I think Savior kind of has those cooldown problems, so hopefully this will help a little bit. The thing about it is, though, it has to be better than the dash attack spam. So that's the kind of thing I'm wondering, is the dash attack spam going to be still better than this or not? Because dash attack is also increased in damage on the Paladin, and that's kind of something that we had in the interim while we were waiting for cooldowns. But this Wrath X string might be something that we get worthwhile, might be something that we get the basic attack mastery passive on, get that to max level, and then start spamming this, as well as maxing the Wrath skill for extra damage. I already maxed Wrath as it is, but getting the TP might be something to consider as well. All of these things we're going to have to see, but I think that's going to be a big change, and it's really going to help. You know, Wrath is a skill that has surprisingly big range, you know, and it's something that you can use to kill groups of enemies easily, at least with my level of gear. So it's something that is going to be useful. Wrath also does a huge knockdown effect, which is going to be kind of abusive as well. So we'll have to see. I'm really excited for this, but, you know, it's something that I'm not too sure on that is going to be awesome, but it seems kind of awesome. Forgiveness is now going to allow you not to move forward with the final attack if you hold back. Something that I feel like I keep seeing this patch note about forgiveness keep getting added, and they keep forgetting to put it in. You know, it's something that is kind of annoying when you use forgiveness. You always do this dash forward attack. Well, now it's going to stop you from dashing forward, and I guess that's something, but I don't even use forgiveness or confession as it is, so don't really care about that. Another thing that we get, though, is 2 extra feather effects, guys, which is most likely going to be used to increase the duration of your Seraphic Feather buff, which gives all those attack speed, move speed, all of that shit. But on top of that, guys, we also now provide a damage reduction effect, although it doesn't stack with your Divine Shield or Sanctuary. And I want to say that that effect, it has to only apply to the Paladin herself. Because if it applied to everybody in the party as a Seraphic Feather buff to everybody else in the party, dude, that is ultra omega broken. She'd be the only synergy in the game that does that. Basically, her passive, or I guess her buff from Seraphic Feathers that gives all the speed effects will now also give damage reduction. That is unheard of in this game. So I'm pretty sure it has to apply only to the Paladin. In which case, you know, honestly, with Divine Shield mostly, and with Sanctuary whenever you use it, Paladin should not be dying, you know, period. Really, she can Divine Shield through like entire gimmick attacks and survive, or she can Sanctuary and heal through gimmick attacks and survive. So the damage reduction is probably not going to help all that much. But dude, if it applies to everybody in the party, that would be ultra omega broken. I said it before, I'll say it again, ultra broken. Now her 95 skill is kind of like a generic throw shield in the air, then hit it, and then causes humongous, probably the biggest AoE on the class. And probably does the most damage as well, which is very generic and very similar to almost all of her skills at the higher levels. I think once you start getting past level 50, all of her skills kind of do that. So I guess you get another one. And then lastly, I really think she has the worst 3A active. She kind of jumps into the air. She kind of looks kind of cool in her like pose right there, you know, her angelic pose, and then she just calls down a big ass mace, you know, like a big bludgeon comes down from the sky, and that's it. Like, dude, I almost feel like calling the Archangel was kind of cooler, you know, and it was more effective and had more usage. This is just a big hit stick, and I think they could have just done better. I think, look at the Chaos or the Dragonite. I mean, these are awesome, epic skills, and this, you know, I think we kind of dropped the ball here. We should have used the shield in some way or crashed down into the ground. Now I'm just thinking of Sword Master. So anyway, I'm not really happy with this. It doesn't look that great, and you know, whatever. And lastly, guys, my number one, who I think got the best, hands down, 3A out of all the knights, has got to be the Elven Knight. And, you know, it's kind of to be expected. I was fully expecting the Elven Knight to get a buff. The reason being, we have been on the lowest end of the popularity list for years at this point. It has been a long time, and I keep getting dogged on, and I'm sure Neopol knows that. My biggest fear was that they were going to overtune her and make her, you know, brain dead easy to play and, you know, really strong to boot. Now, they didn't make her brain dead, and they did make her strong. So, of all the characters, of all the knights, we got the biggest damage increase at about 20 to 23% damage increase across the board, which is, obviously, we're just going to be doing more damage now. 20%. That's crazy to me. Overwhelm is a very useful AoE type skill, and you also have the ability to cast a skill in midair, but you had to build into it by getting the TP skill, and that TP skill costs 3 TP on that first level just to be able to cast it in the air. Now it's just going to be part of the passive. Rose Armor now gives you super armor when you cast it, which I guess makes it safer, but also Rose Armor is a skill that I pretty much have at level 0, and I don't know anybody who actually uses it at all. So I guess it's not really all that useful. Next thing, the Vanguard's Z-axis has increased and the post delay reduced, which is kind of interesting. Z-axis is the jumping axis in DFO, and Vanguard's Strash is something that I feel like you're not going to be dealing with guys in the air most of the times in DFO. And you had some other skills to knock people out of the air, like the deer. So having Z-axis increase is kind of nice, but it's not going to be all that helpful. The post-delay reduction is going to be helpful, although most people who play Elven Knight are going to get the Vanguard Strash Talisman. And the Talisman basically makes the post-delay reduction basically none. It's like it changes the skill entirely. So this kind of change to Vanguard Strash is probably not all that helpful. Although maybe it stacks. Maybe the post-delay reduction stacks with the Talisman. And if it does, then yeah, that's going to be freaking OP. Although I think it's already instant cast as it is. Now here are the big changes, guys. We get Y-axis increase on a lot of different skills. Natural Restraint, which I have come to find out is an extremely good damage skill. Along with Vanguard Strash, they do similar damage, and the Y-axis is increased, so now you can kind of catch people who are a little bit outside of your Y-axis range. Same thing with the Lunge Evolution. It gets a Y-axis increase, as well as the Faithful Breakthrough, which surprisingly didn't have very much Y-axis coverage, even though it looked like a giant big-ass shield. Now, Nature's Fury is going to be sped up a little bit, which is kind of nice because the second hit is kind of slow, and you have to wait a little bit for the bar to kind of get all the way back to be able to chain your next skill, which Nature Fury is a big skill, so it is worth waiting that, but if they can make it fast enough so that we don't have to wait, that's kind of awesome. Although I should mention that Nature's Fury, when we get our new talismans, the higher level 90, 95 talismans, you probably will be picking up the Nature's Fury talisman, which kind of eliminates that problem as well. So the talismans have kind of fixed some of these problems, but they're kind of making it inherent in the skills so that they're not problems to begin with, which I really like. It kind of makes it so you don't have to rely too heavily on the talismans anymore, although most likely you're still going to use them. Now, all of these changes, obviously, guys, are really, really good, but I got to be honest, that doesn't even cover the biggest changes on Elven Knight yet. The biggest changes that we are going to be getting, first and foremost, is the 95 passive, which buffs up 2 different skills, your Chain Rush skill as well as the Elvish Jump, and both of these passives are amazing. First and foremost, your Chain Rush is getting affected. Now, currently, Chain Rush forces you to chain a skill within 3 seconds. If you don't chain a skill within 3 seconds, the chain bar resets back to its base level, which at the third awakening will be 3 chain. Now it's going to increase it to about 5 seconds. So you have 5 seconds to get your next skill chain, which is going to be a big deal. Having 2 extra seconds to have to be able to chain your next skill is really good. The skill is also going to be applied when you enter the dungeon, and it's going to be permanently retained for the entire dungeon. Not something you really had to worry about, but I guess it's kind of nice that I don't have to cast it anymore. But the biggest thing I think is going to be for casual Elven Knight players is that the success area is going to be increased. Now, I think the specifics about it are it's going to be the blue bar is going to be increased. Now, if you guys don't know what that means, there are 2 different bars in Chain Rush. The green bar advances the chain to the next level. But if you're a little bit mistimed, if you're a little bit before the green bar or a little bit after the green bar, you're within the blue bar. And that blue bar, what it does is it allows you to chain your next skill, but it doesn't advance the chain bar. You'll retain the current chain. So if you're at 4 chain and you hit in the blue bar, you're going to still be at 4 chain, but you won't reset back to 0, because if you miss the Chain Rush bar, it resets it back to 0, or in this case, plus 3 chain. So it's something basically to retain, if you're sloppy with your Chain Rush, you at least don't lose it completely if you chain within the blue bar. Now, progressively, as your chain gets longer, the blue bar decreases in size, and now with the 3A, the amount that it decreases in size has been reduced so that the blue bar retains for longer. Eventually, when you start getting into 10, 15 chain of Chain Rush combo, you're not going to have any blue bar at all. You only have green bar and you have to play perfectly. This doesn't affect people who are really good at their Chain Rush, but it does affect people who consistently hit in the blue bar. At least they won't be reset all the way back to 0 and completely whiff their next skill. So I guess what it is doing is allowing you guys to not be punished as hardly for failing. But just keep in mind, guys, that blue bar is unacceptable, okay? You better be hitting in the green bar, or you better be signing off your EK. And personally, guys, my biggest change, and the one that I think is going to be affecting me the most, is going to be the Elvish jump change. Currently, as it exists right now, it kind of jumps incredibly far. It can be used in the air, which now it will be added to a passive. You don't have to get the TP to be able to air cast this skill, which is cool. But if you use it in chain, what it does is it auto targets the strongest enemy in the room, usually the boss or the mini boss, and it will directly teleport to them. This effect is so freaking good. Now, they have tried to do this once in the past. They made it so the talisman on the pulverize skill did this effect where it automatically honed in on the boss. Now, the problem is your pulverize skill is one of your strongest skills, and so you couldn't really use it for that utility effect of being able to jump to an enemy right away. You couldn't do it for that because it was a skill that you could only use within 6 chain. You are never going to use a skill unless you are in 6 chain, and so that kind of tracking effect is not used for utility, it's used for damage at all times. So the fact that you can put it onto Elvish Jump now, which is a much lower level skill, something has a lower cooldown, and something I personally don't use for damage, is basically a utility effect now. I can be in the middle of a chain rush and then jump to an enemy right away, or reposition and make sure I'm lined up perfectly. And that's a huge, one of the biggest changes I think Elven Knight got, and I think is going to be really abusive. On top of that, guys, and to finish off, Elven Knight's Chain Rush has a suction effect, which kind of vortexes people closer and closer to your x-axis string. So it kind of, you know, as the chain keeps progressing, you're going to be sucking enemies in, and they're going to be lined up with you. Although if you can't do that, like say an enemy is stationary, like Soroka, again, you have Elvish Jump to, instead of sucking them to you, you teleport to them, and now you're lined up. It's just two things to kind of really quality of life things that kind of happen when you play Elven Knight. You're just not lined up, and these things line you up better. You get bigger x-axis increase on your chain strike, so you're not going to be missing that. Overall, Chain Rush is just going to be a lot better to use for all of us, for all the Elven Knight mains, and we got so many buffs. Guys, I haven't even talked about the new skills. Dude, we definitely got the best out of all of them, but the new skills definitely solidify that, guys. First is going to be your 95 skill, which does this big hit as well as big AoE, some of the biggest AoE on the class, honestly, because she doesn't have great AoE. Or fuck, hardly any AoE. But on top of just this awesome AoE effect, guys, this is an awesome initiation skill, because what it does is it immediately gives you the maximum of 6 stacks of Chain Rush, which is awesome. Now, the one caveat here is that it better apply the 6 stacks of damage when you cast it, otherwise it kind of loses that effect, because you want to use your strongest skills with 6 chain. But I think it does apply the 6 chain as well as give you 6 chain, so that's gonna be just awesome. And then lastly, guys, the actual 3A awakening, I'll just let it speak for itself. Man, this is good. I want to say that this works almost exactly like the monk. It looks like it, right? It looks like it does a little tiny bit of damage as a hold, and then the final hit is a big explosion attack where most of the damage is held, meaning that most likely you're just going to be able to precast a 3A, making her just like the Chaos's back-ended damage, just like Vagabond, just like Monk. Elven Knight's joining the crew with a backloaded 3-8 damage. It looks amazing too. I mean, it all comes together, guys. Elven Tree or whatever, the Tree of Life, and you kind of diving down and Gurren Lagann with your big drill. It's awesome. It's awesome. Maybe I like the Dragonite a little bit more, but it doesn't matter, guys. This one is really cool. I really like it. And overall, guys, Elven Knight definitely won in the end. But, you know, this is just speculation off of what I've read. Maybe it comes out and it's not as good as it seems, or maybe some other characters are stronger than I think. But from what I got right here with the 3A patch notes, guys, I am really excited for the 3A, and here's hoping in 6 months when we actually get it, I'll be able to show this off and still just be as excited as I am now. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you knights later.